So as promised, I am going to do a longer video on how I sized up and knitted this jumper from 1945, and it is from Stitchcraft, and it was called the two-stripe, two-stripe jumper, no, the two-colour, oh I know, oh it's too hot today, my brain's gone mush, the two-colour stripe jumper for the slim figure. If you've not seen me before, my name's Emily. I uploaded a short about this jumper. And what I tend to do is get vintage knitting patterns and size them up for the not so slim figure. And today I am filming the rest of the video to talk you through how to make your own version of this. There is a free pattern which I will put in the description below. So in today's video I am going to talk you through how I sized up and knitted this jumper. So I will start off with the yarn that I chose, how I sized it up. So normally when I size up vintage knitting patterns, I tend to use the same ply and needle size and just increase the amount of cast on stitches and the length. With this, I kept to the exact pattern, regarding the cast on stitches, not necessarily length, but I changed the ply and the needle size. So I will share my calculations of how I worked that out, because this pattern was originally meant to fit up to a 30-inch bust. I'm 43 inches, so by sizing it up from 2 ply to DK or 8 ply, and from, I forgot the needle size already, but it will be in the video, put it up to a 4mm needle size, or UK number 8, the old measurement, imperial. Managed to size it up to fit me. So yes, so it'll be, as I said before, the yarn that I chose, how I sized it up. I'll also go through the pattern, part of the pattern itself, because with the stranded colour work, it did it in the pattern. It was an unusual technique that I've not come across before, because normally if you've done stranded before, that's an example what it looks like on the wrong side. You take both colours across with you. With this, what they did was you would knit the colours, like the purple, for example, back and then forth, and then do the grey back and forth. So you basically did 2 rows, but in 4 rows. So, which sounds, it was a bit it was confusing to me. And then, so what I've done is I have filmed myself doing that, so you can see for yourself, how to do that. Because, if you want to, you could just do it as you normally do, take the 2 colours across, or follow the pattern exactly, and do it where you go purple, purple, grey, grey, and then purple, purple, grey, grey again, just for a 4-row pattern. So yes, and there'll be a few more bits and pieces after that in the video. So yes, I will, because I haven't really done a lot of long form videos on YouTube, I will try and divide it into chapters, then you can skip a bit depending what you're more interested in. But yes, I hope you find the video informative and will help you with your knitting and sizing up this particular pattern.
So this is a double knit yarn that I had my heart set on making the jumper with. So in some descriptions I said that this grey wool was from Rowan, and I made a mistake, it's actually from Yarn Stories, and I got it second hand from a craft car boot sale. And then the pink and purple wool are originally from Jaeger, which was given to my grandmother-in-law. And unfortunately it did suffer a moth attack, and this is what was left of what I was able to rescue. The original pattern used 2-ply yarn and old UK size needles 11 and 12, which in metric are 3mm and 2 3/4mm. The tension given was 8.5 stitches to 1 inch unstretched, and the pattern would fit either a 28 to 30 inch bust or a 31 to 33 inch bust. To work out the full circumference of the jumper and the ease, so whether it's going to be a loose or a tight fit on the body, I took the number of stitches at the bust before the armhole shaping and divided that number by 8.5 stitches, and then times that resulting number by 2, because you have a front and a back half of the jumper, to get the total finished bust size measurement. So for the 28 to 30 inch size, there was 120 stitches, so divided by 8.5 equals 14.11 times by 2 equals a finished bust measurement of 28.23 inches. And then the 132 stitches for the next size up, divided by 8.5 equals 15.52 times by 2 equals 31.05 inches at the finished bust. So moving on to the double knit yarn, or the 8 ply, I then looked how many stitches would be to 1 inch as given in the tension the original pattern. So dividing 22 stitches on average to a 4-inch square divided by 4 equals 5.5 stitches. So I did 120 stitches divided by 5.5 equals 21.81 inches, times by 2 equals 43.63 inches. And then 132 stitches divided by 5.5 stitches equals 24, times by 2 equals 48 inches for the finished bust size. So going on from that, I was very confident that I could knit the jumper following the exact same pattern, but going up needle and ply, and it would still fit my 43-inch bust with a good amount of ease. I started knitting a jumper in April 2026 while I was on holiday, and when I was partway through knitting the colour stripes, I realised I read the pattern wrong. I was meant to knit or do garter stitch on the right and wrong side when doing the contrast rows and not just stocking stitch. So it says here on the pattern here, you slip 2, knit 2 alternately to the end, and then you do that again, so you slip 2, knit 2, and then on that, and then when you go back to like the main shade, it's purl, and then when you're doing the colour stripes, it's garter stitch on both sides. I found because it's like a photocopy of an old pattern, you couldn't really see the texture of the garter stitches very well. So after ripping back the rows I did in stocking stitch, I then re-knitted them in garter stitch as laid out in the pattern originally. So now I'm working on the front of the jumper. So I've done 3 inches of knit 1 purl 1 rib there for the waistband, and then I've done 6 stitches of grey, and then a pink colour work, and then the grey again, the purple, up to the pink. And on these, this is where I did the increases. So you increase at each end of every 6th row until there are 120 stitches if you're knitting the first size. As you can see there, I made a mistake and did stocking stitch instead of garter stitch, but I thought it's going to look that closely, especially around my tummy area as well. And this is the colour stranding at the back. So with this one, it's unusual because you're knitting the colour strands across first and back, and then the grey back, forward and backs as well. So I will show you how this is done in the original pattern. So within the increases, you're not going to start off exactly the same as the pattern. So this is row 7 of the colour work. So I've knitted the first 2 strands together, so rejoin the yarn. So that's going to be a purple stitch on this row. So then what you do is try and find the right. There we go. So then you slip 2 knitwise, and then you knit the purple stitches. Like so. And then again, if you get lost, you can refer back to the colour row below. So slip 2 knitwise, the grey one, or your main colour. And then with the contrast, you knit 2 stitches. And then you just carry on. So slip 2 and then knit 2. So what I tend to do, because of like work and that, I tend to record first and then do a voiceover over it. So I'm trying to figure out what my brain was thinking in the past, and trying to figure out what I was filming, and then what I was trying to point out to people. So yeah, so knit 2. So there you go, just slow knit 2, slip 2, and I think this is where I'm going to speed up a bit. So I bought a new tripod. Well, I don't know if it's technically a tripod because I haven't got 3 legs, but you attach it to a table and you like screw it on with a clamp, and then it enables me to film from above hands-free. So then you can have a visual on how this is done. So there you go. So you're still on the whole row, slipping 2, and then knitting 2. But as you can see, it's a bit of an unusual way of doing it because you're not taking both the purple and the grey across with you. It's telling you in this pattern to do the contrast stitches first, forward and back, and then the grey forward and back. So you're doing 2 stitches of colour work, but you're doing it in 4 rows. Well, it feels like it's 4 rows. We're sort of doing half a row each time. So the colour work pattern consists of 14 rows altogether. So you work 6 rows of stocking stitch in the main colour, which in this jumper is grey, and then the rest are knitted in your contrast colour. And the original pattern, it's called the 2-colour jumper. And of course I'm using 3 colours just to use up the yarn that I have in my stash. And I do quite like purple and pink. It's the colours that I do wear quite a lot. So coming towards the end of the row now. So still slipping 2 knitwise and knitting 2 in the contrast colour. And as you can see, I sort of knit English style, just like throwing the yarn over, because this is how I was taught to knit. I have tried to do continental, but it just doesn't work for me. And I've been knitting this way for, I think, like, how old am I? 38. So yeah, 20 years been knitting this way on and off. So this is the style that I'm most comfortable with. And again, you don't have to knit it like this. This is just according to the pattern. So if you want to do it like the traditional way, like the normal way, to take both across, then that's up to you. But this is just how it's done in the pattern itself. And now this is going to be row 8. So this is slip 2, knit 2. Because of the increases, it's not exactly the same. So you're going to start sort of halfway through. So you're going to knit the purple, and then you're going to slip the 2 grey stitches back, and then and then with this, because you're still doing it in garter stitch, so you're slipping the grey stitches purlwise, but I do it through the back loop, and I think I will show you. I don't know if it's on this row. I know it might be on the next row actually. It might be when you're on the right side. Yeah, so slipping the grey stitches purlwise, and then you're putting the yarn forward and knitting the purple in garter stitch, and then you bring the yarn back, slipping the grey stitches purlwise, and then putting it forward and then doing the garter stitch again. So that way it's making sure you keep the float of the, like the yarn that you're not using at the back and not across the front. So I do wonder why they've, so then just showing you what the pattern should look like, but just excuse the mistake of the stocking stitch bit there. So I wonder, like in the pattern, they've done it this way because it is different stitches. So you're not doing stocking stitch all the way throughout, you are doing garter stitch. So I'm just wondering, I'm trying to get myself in the mind of the pattern designer, why they've done it like this and whether it's to do with tension. I don't know. I'm just guessing. But it's a very different way of doing it. So now, so you keep slipping the grey stitches purlwise and then knitting the purple stitches. I mean, it does create quite a nice texture. It's a different sort of, a different texture, that not only contrast in colour, but the contrast in texture on the jumper. And there's me just showing you, like, make sure your purple yarn still at that end. So you're going to go back across, do it on the wrong side, working with the purple. So so in the pattern, row 8 says slip 2, knit 2 alternately to end, bringing wool through to the front of the work between needles and slipping stitches purlwise each time. And now we're starting on row 9 of the pattern, which is with main shade, slip 2, knit 2 alternatively along. So now we're going to be knitting with the grey yarn instead of the purple. So I'm going to slip the purple, and now this is what I was going to show you. So I'm going to knit into the back of the stitch, because if I knit into the front, because it's been slipped purlwise, if I knit it that way, it's going to end up twisted, as you can see, because this doesn't tell you in the pattern. If you're slipping it purlwise and you haven't even knitted it the other time, it's going to be, you have to make sure you don't twist your stitches. So on this, so on this, if you knit into the back of the stitch, so through the back loop, then you're not going to twist your stitches. So you're going to slip those garter stitch wise, and then you're going to knit your stitch again, making sure you don't twist your stitch. You're going to knit through the back loop, like that. And I don't know what I'm trying to do here. I think I'm just showing you how not to twist your stitches. Again, this is me trying to figure out what past me was thinking. But yeah, so you see, slip them, go out stitchwise, and then knit the grey through the back loop. So I was in two minds whether or not to edit this a bit shorter, but I think for some people it's easier just to keep, as visual learners, just to watch it. So I do apologise, it's a bit boring, but it might be helpful for one person. And now we're moving on to row 10. And this says in the original pattern, with main shade, which is the grey in this case, purl 2 and slip 2 all along. So again, your purple yarn or your contrast yarn is going to be at one end, and then the yarn that you're working with is going to be at the other. So you're going to slip your contrast yarn, which is the purple in this case, purlwise, and then you're going to purl your main colour, or in this, the grey stitches. And if I was going to show, like sometimes with tension, when you're doing strand colour work, you have to make sure you have enough give when you get, so you can at least pull it over your head and it's going to fit. So I do find when I'm knitting on the right side and then purling on the wrong side with stranded colour work, my tension is different. So one trick that I use to make sure I've got enough give is to put my thumb over the stitches and then put the yarn over my thumb, so then the float has a little bit of stretch to it. If that makes sense. I can't think of another word to say it, but yes, as you can see what I'm doing anyway. So yeah, there you go there, emphasising the making sure you've got enough stretch. Because nothing worse than doing a beautiful colourwork jumper and then finding out you can't even fit over your head, or it's constricting you, like, can't breathe. So there you go, so purl the grey, slip the contrast colour purlwise, and then purl in the grey again. And now we're moving on to the row number 11. So it says using contrast, slip 2, knit 2 alternately all along. So you're just repeating what you've done before. However, you're just doing it on the grey stitches. So yeah, so you're going to make it's a bit like a checkerboard style. So you're going to, show you like how it's what you're doing now. So you're going to do that top row now. And you're just going to fill in the grey stitches into purple stitches. So you're going to slip those purple stitches. Now with this one you don't need to knit into the back of the stitch because you've done the grey, you've knitted it and then purled it across anyway. So did I say to do it in the back stitch, the back loop with this one or not? Yes, because it's going to twist. So yes, so I would slip your purple stitches through the back loop. But this time with your grey stitches, you don't, because you've purled and knitted it across instead of slipping it. So if in doubt, just try it and just see if, before you knit it, just go through, try the front and the back loop. And if your stitch is going to twist at the bottom, then that's not the right way to do it. Unless you want your stitches twisted, it's your jumper, you have control over how you want it to look. But with this case, if you want it smooth, slip through the back stitches on the purple and then knit through the front post on the or the front leg. I'm still trying to get to grips with some terminology because some people use some way to describe knitting through the back or the front loop, and I was like, I've never heard that before. Some people call it post, some people call it a leg. but I tend to say the loop. So yeah, so you're knitting the purple stitches, the grey stitches into purple, and then you slip in the old purple stitches. And now on the row 12, sorry, which is with contrast, knit 2, slip 2 alternately or along. So you're on the wrong side, but you are knitting the purple stitches that you're using. So you're slipping. So this is going to get confusing because now we've got all purple stitches. So you're going to be knitting the ones that you've used. And a good way of knowing which purple stitches you're not using is the stranding there. So if you've got the stranding going across the purple stitches on this row, those are the ones you're not knitting. So you're going to knit those two. And then you're going to slip those purlwise, because again, that yarn's going to tell you that it's off limits for the moment. And then knit the next two. So I hope that's helpful, because otherwise you're going to be knitting the wrong purple stitches. So slip those two purlwise. That yarn's going to tell you they're off limits for the moment. And then knit the next two. So slip those two purlwise. And then knit those two. Again, remembering to bring your yarn forward and back, so it's stranding along the wrong side and not along the front side. And now we're on row 13, which is with main shade, knit 2 and slip 2 alternately or along. So you're going to get your main colour, which is the grey, well, in this one, and then you're going to slip. Am I knitting or am I slipping here? Oh, I'm knitting here. Yeah, so so knit those, yeah, so again with the increase you're sort of working like partway through the pattern. So yeah, so you're gonna, so what am I saying here? Oh yes, so you have to be careful not to twist your stitch. So can you see it's twisted because I was knitting it through the front post. Knit it through the back. To stop your stitches from twisting. So slip those two knitwise. So the ones that you're knitting into grey are the purple stitches that I told you not to knit in the previous row. So the ones that you were working on, you go leave be, and now you go knit the ones that I told you to leave alone. So you're going to slip the sort of newer purple stitches, and then you're going to knit the old purple stitches, turning them back into the main colour. And again, knitting them through the back loop so it doesn't twist your stitches. And there's the stranding at the back. And then I'm showing you stranding at the back again. Can't remember why. Oh no, that's why, because we've moved on to row number 14. There we go. See, I'm trying to figure out what past me was thinking. So there we go. So yeah, so you're slipping your purple stitches, and now you're purling your main colour stitches. And then I'm using my thumb just to try and give it a bit of, you know, so I'm not doing it too tight. So yeah, so you're purling your grey, and then you're slipping your purple stitches there. So purling the grey, and then slipping them purlwise your purple ones. So these purple ones are, yeah, so these are the ones that you just leave and be for the moment. I think like with sometimes when you get used to a new pattern, it takes you a little while. For me, it takes a little while to get used to it. And then once you get into the flow, it's sort of, I don't know if it becomes muscle memory or not. I do find when I start going through a project, I've done it for a little while, the colour work sort of comes to me automatically. So yeah, so purling the grey, and then slipping the purple stitches purlwise. Oh, I got stuck there. And then that's it. So this is when you start doing the 6 rows of grey again. So I hope that was helpful for you. If you've got any questions, let me know in the comments below, and I'll try and answer them the best way I can. The original pattern asked for crochet button loops, but I can't crochet, so I just knitted a buttonhole placket. I did 5 stitches for both bits and then just eyeballed where the stripes are, so then I could put the buttons in line with the stripes. For the collar I used 4mm needles and I cast on 8 stitches and did knit 1, purl 1, rib. In the original pattern it asked for 16 inches for both sides, so 16 inches of one colour and 16 inches the other, but I did 20, so 40 inches altogether because I wanted it longer to tie up into a bow. With the sleeves there was quite a lot of knitted fabric left over that I decided to use a gathering stitch with and ease it into the armhole and still make sure the stripes matched up. And to support that extra gathering and fabric at the top, I made little shoulder pads. So I just cast on 20 stitches, knit a little square, fold it over into a triangle, and then I sewed it up the sides like so to give it some thickness, and then sewed that into the shoulder seam. So this is the finished jumper again. With the shoulder pads, I didn't put them on my actual shoulders, I put them into the sleeve head, so the top of the sleeve, so it gives it some structure with the gathering. And then I was so pleased with the pattern matching there as well. And then I was like, this is why I did longer, the ties, so I can do it in a little bow tie. And then I did got pink and purple buttons to go with the stripes, and then tie it back into a little bow. But thank you so much for watching this video. I hope it was helpful, and again, any questions, let me know in the comments below and I will answer them the best way I can. Thank you.